Thank you for tuning in to the best parenting show on the internet, Post Daily Dose.
It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post.
Good evening, Posties. And good evening, Facebook family. Welcome to another episode of Post Daily Dose with me, your trusted parenting advisor, faithful guide and servant on the healing journey. What's my name, baby? Big Papa. Big Papa. Brian+Post. Good to see everyone on this amazing, whimsical Wednesday. I hope you've had a fantastic day. I've been very busy today. Lots of little details. Good evening, buddy Stefan. Lots of little details to attend to before camp kicks off tomorrow evening. Everything is lining up magically. It was funny. Christy and I had about an hour coaching call this morning going over everything, and she sent me a text. She was like, I wish this thing would just get started so it'll all fall into place and be what it's going to be. She said, because I'm a pre-stressor. I thought that was funny. She's pre-stressing. I'm remarkably not pre-stressing. Hey there, Bethany. Hope you guys are doing well. Hey, Kirsten. Saw that sweet picture of Bo that you posted. That was very, very sweet. So today I thought I'd talk just briefly, lightly, I don't want to go too deep, on tangling with your teen. On tangling with your teen. Who knows? Those teens give a lot of us parents a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. I have a parent who is going through some challenges with her teen, bless her heart. Holding her in my prayers and my thoughts. And she reached out via Facebook. And so it just made me thought, and I've talked about teens before, and here's the thing. As a parent, I've never dreaded the teenage years. I never dreaded the twos. I never dreaded the teens, because I don't see either as terrible, and I don't see either as particularly challenging, which I believe is a part of my own manifestation. So then I never really had any issues in my teen years with my children. Marley is as peaceful as they come, and Michaela, though a little opinionated at times, was really a piece of cake. Kevin was actually a piece of cake too, never really challenging other than his addiction to electronics and staying up all night and sleeping all day. So here's the thing. With teenagers, you have to be willing to do a couple very important things. Number one, you have to be willing to let them grow up. You have to be willing, and you have to honor the fact that they are moving neurologically and developmentally into a phase of independence. That means they are going to make decisions contrary to what you would have for them, and sometimes just to spite you, they will make these decisions, because they have to begin at this stage developing and carving out their own identity. It's the teen years is a very important stage. It reminds me of one of my first social work mentors, a beloved mentor, Lawrence G. Anderson. Met him in graduate school, and he just guided me for so many years. I just love that man like a second father. He said once in class that when a child no longer needs their parents, the parent knows that they've done their job. So when a child no longer needs their parent, but is always capable of returning when in need, then the parent knows that they've done their job. And he called it's the process of individuation. So you're individuating yourself separate from your parent, because up until that time, you've been a reflection of them, you've been a growth of them, an outgrowth of them, representation of them. And then when you hit teenage years, your brain starts to change in a way that starts to separate some of those insecure attachments that you've operated from during your childhood. And so you move into a decision-making process which is reflective of trying to develop identity, your own self-identity. That's a beautiful thing, and it's also the most painful things that one of the most painful things that parents go through. And I'll tell you why. Because there's a dynamic tension that gets created. There's a conflict that gets created. And here's how it happens. Listen to me on this. When our children become teenagers and they start to make individualizing decisions, they start to create their own sense of identity and independence. It becomes a threat to us. It triggers our own fear receptors. So naturally what we want to do, because we've held on to them at this point, so naturally what we want to do is we want to grab and try to pull them in. And you know what that looks like? That looks like control. Now, did I say this recently on a Post Daily Dose, or have I been saying it in a couple of talks and in the camps that I've done? When we become stressed, we move into control, suppression, and change. So if you followed some of my Facebook Live presentations, you've heard me say that. You know that you are in a state operating from a state of stress, which means you're operating from a state of fear when you move into control, suppress, or change behavior. Anytime you're trying to control, suppress, or change behavior, you're operating from stress and fear. Otherwise, you're going to operate from influence and the focus on relationship, which is operating from a place of love. Single biggest challenge for parents and families. Hey, Julia from Nova Scotia, Canada. I have never been to Nova Scotia, Canada, but I have a friend that moved there from Virginia, and he told me he was giving me an acre of land, Julia, in Nova Scotia, Canada. So if you can track down John, what is John's last name? He's an eccentric little fellow. He wrote a book on MSG and fluoride, and he believed he got ran out of the country, got ran out of the U.S. because of that book. And it was really a pretty shocking and revealing book before anyone was talking about MSG and fluoride. John, what the heck is John's name? I'll remember it, Julia. I'll tell you. I want you to look him up. Tell him Big Papa said, hey, I need to come to Nova Scotia and claim my 1 acre of land. I think about John's, I can't think of it. Anyway, no, not John Warwick. Thanks, Stefan, from the Netherlands. So here's the challenge. And John's name's going to pop in my head. The Slow Poisoning of America is the name of the book. Someone look that up and tell me what John's last name is. The Slow Poisoning of America. And order the book. I mean, this was 20 years ago. And it's fantastic. Such an eccentric little guy. I truly did enjoy him, and I do want to take him up on my 1 acre of land that he promised me, because I don't know what I did for him. I think I listened to him when he was sad and stressed out. So anyway, beside the point, Stefan looked that up. Slow Poisoning of America. Tell me what his last name is. So naturally, when we become stressed and our children making individuating decisions, developing their independence causes us fear, and then we want to control, we want to suppress, we want to change. And guess what that causes? It causes dynamic tension. It causes frenetic energy in your relationship. And then what happens is your teen starts to rebel. That's where teenage rebellion comes from. So they start to push back because you're pulling. They're pushing back because you're pulling. Now here's the dynamic. Even though they're trying to carve out their own individual, their own identities, their own independence, they're still scared. So it's the most interesting dynamic and dichotomy. Both the parent and the child are scared. The parent and the teen are scared. The teen acts like they're the most confident, independent person in the world, but internally they still feel like a scared little 5-year-old. Sometimes a scared little 2-year-old, and that's why they act the way they act. But then what happens, you get scared as the parent and you start trying to control. So I had a parent today. She was like, well, should I strip his bedroom? Because he's been, I'm not sure how she came to stripping his bedroom because he's been leaving home at night and getting high with his friends, and she walked down to the friend's house and he was getting high on the steps. So I'm not sure how stripping the bedroom like creates that dynamic. John Herb, Mimi looked it up for me. Bam! I will come visit, Julie. I'd love to. And Julie, you and I together, we will seek out John Herb. John Herb, brother, I'm looking for my 1 acre. Angela, what do you say? I am so going to get my husband to wash his feet. Thank you very much. Cool. Hello from down under. And yes, we do all have fear. So that's the dynamic. Listen, so let me say it again. I'm gonna stop getting distracted. We as parents get stressed when our children start acting like adults. They're not adults. We know they're not adults. We get stressed and we start feeling like they're 5 years old again, and we start treating them like they're 5 years old. But their brains are orienting them towards independence. So they start trying to make adult decisions. And when we become fearful and we start trying to control, suppress, and change, from our fear, control, suppress, and change, they start rebelling and pulling against us. So we're trying to pull them in, they're pulling against us. Now, if you spent years, not focused on relationship with your child, then those relationship threads are not very strong. Those attachment threads are not very strong. So you're pulling and trying to control, suppress, and change your child in adolescence is actually pushing them further away. What you have to realize is that they are just as scared about their independence as you're afraid of their independence. Now, I'm going to say that again. Your child's fear and anxiety, hear me on this, because I'm about to drop the mic on this one. Your child's fear and anxiety is equal to your fear and anxiety. Your child's fear and anxiety about their independence. Your child's fear and anxiety about leaving home. Your child's fear and anxiety about having to carve out this life for themselves. And this is what their brain's telling them to do. This is what their developmental state's telling them what to do. And you should actually commend yourself for having got them to this point. Because otherwise they'd still be emotionally regressed and clingy to you and really immature and not trying to make these decisions. Your child's fear and anxiety is equal to your fear and anxiety about their independence. So now both of you are freaked out about them wanting to be independent. And so then the way the brain works is because you're stressed and you're trying to control and suppress and change, and you're trying to pull your child in, and their brains have matured to a place to where it's now time for them to start reaching their little beaks over the nest and getting on the edge of the nest and getting ready to freaking fly. And then you start squawking, and when you start squawking, guess what they do? They get real nervous and uneasy, and you're going to cause them to tumble over before they're fully ready. Calm down. Calm down. They're going to make bad decisions. You all made bad decisions. I know you did. I know I made some shitty decisions as a teenager. I just did. But it's what we do. It's how we figure out the world. I was no longer the reflection of my mother and father. I was no longer the outgrowth of my mother and father. I was my own person. So I had to make decisions as my own person. And some of those decisions were not good decisions, but they're how I started to carve out my identity about who I was and who I wasn't. And, use the morals and the values and the ethics that my parents gave me over all those 16 years of repetition and security and nurturing and love and support. Use those values to help identify and create a person that I wanted to become. And that's really hard. Remember how it was for you as a teenager. You have to remember that. Oh, you've read John Herb. See, I'm still distracted. Yes. Calm down. Love it. Perfect. So they're going to screw up, guys. There's no amount of fear, no amount of stripping their room, no amount of control, no amount of suppression, no amount of trying to change your behaviors is going to keep them from screwing up and causing you some sleepless nights. You deserved it. You worked hard to get to the point of having some sleepless nights. Commend yourself. You should be thankful. When you start having to lose sleep over your teen and what they're doing, it is well deserved. You got them to the point to where they feel confident enough and secure enough to try to go out into the world and figure it out. Now, granted, the world is a freaking scary place right now. And it wasn't as scary when I was a kid. I mean, I grew up in a little town. We could have walked the streets all night long. We walked the streets late at night and then just got bored and decided to go home. There was just nothing for us to do. Now, kids have a little bit more to get into these days, but there's still, most of you have good kids. And if you don't create so much stress and anxiety when they leave the home, when they get bored, they'll be ready to come back home because home's a safe place. It's the difference between love and fear. If your child leaves the home out of stress and fear and insecurity and feeling not supported, they're not going to be inclined to come back home. That's not that difficult. If you run your child off, they're not going to be inclined to come back home. But if you create an environment where you say, hey, I don't want you sneaking out at night. It freaking stresses me out and scares me and I'm losing sleep. And my goodness, I know you're 16 years old and you're going to do it anyway. Stop going out the freaking window. Go out the freaking door. I'm going to leave the door unlocked. I'm going to put a key under the mat. Please be safe. Please call me. Please just let me know you're okay because I'm so freaking worried about you. It makes me so freaking sad. I'm so scared that you're growing up. And dadgummit, I know you got to do it. And please don't get in trouble. And if you do get in trouble, don't call me. Don't call me. If you end up in the police station doing something you weren't supposed to, don't call me. But please come home. Try not to stay up too late. You know I want you home by midnight, and you're probably not going to be home by midnight, and that scares me. It makes me sad. I'm going to be up waiting for you, and I'm going to try not to say anything. But when you come home, I'll be so glad. And then you turn around and you go to your freaking room and you pour yourself a glass of wine or two and eat some chocolates and watch your favorite TV show and commend yourself on having done a job to get a kid to a place to where they can go out and navigate the world, and 9 times out of 10, they're not going to do anything bad. 9 times out of 10. And when they get bored from being out in the world, they're going to come home. And when they come home, they're going to be a lot more relaxed. And they may even pop their heads in your bedroom door and say, hey, I'm home. Hey, I'm home. They may just do that, guys. In any given situation, we always have 2 choices. We can continue to react from a place of stress and fear and blueprints and generational imprints. We have all these generational imprints that tell you that when your child moves into teens, you should start freaking out and you should get more control. And that's some crap. We can keep doing that, or we can stop, we can slow down, we can take 3 to 10 deep breaths, consider it an opportunity for a date night. Have a date. Do something fun. Be glad when that little sucker leaves. Encourage them. Hey, don't you have somewhere you need to go? I'm trying to get my freak on tonight. Shoot. And if the door is locked, just wait outside in the car. Sleep in the car until I open the door. Got some business to attend to. You know what I'm saying? We can choose love. God bless you. Big Papa loves you. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm coming for you, John Herb.